You didn't come across this message by chance. This is divine timing. God led you here because your spirit has been moving in silence, staying true, walking in integrity, even when no one saw. While the world was distracted, you remained faithful, planting seeds without seeking recognition. And now, heaven is responding. This is your confirmation. Your harvest is already in motion. Not because others praised you, but because God saw every unseen act, every quiet prayer, every moment of obedience. You are chosen. Mark this moment. Type 77 to align your spirit and declare that you're ready to receive what's already yours by divine right. This isn't just a message, it's a reminder your soul has been waiting for. Each time you return to these words, a deeper truth will rise. Your reward is unfolding. Stay faithful. God is not finished with you. Chapter 1. The secret battles no one knew about. Chosen one, let's get real. What you went through wasn't just hardship, it was divine preparation. The pain, the isolation, the silent tears, it wasn't random. It was shaping you. You didn't just survive storms, you became immovable in them. While others saw the surface, they never saw the sleepless nights, the prayers whispered through brokenness, the quiet moments where giving up felt easier than holding on. You didn't have a crowd cheering you on. You didn't have people standing beside you. In fact, some of the ones who should have stayed left when you needed them most. But you didn't quit. You wiped your own tears, stood back up, and kept going. You made the hard decisions no one will ever know about. Choosing truth when a lie would have been easier. Choosing forgiveness when anger felt justified. Choosing faith when fear was screaming louder. You could have taken shortcuts. You could have compromised your values to ease the pain. But something in your spirit whispered, don't trade your destiny for temporary relief. And you listened. That's what set you apart. You stayed true when no one was watching. You chose obedience in the shadows, and heaven saw every step. Now the season has shifted. God is moving. What you built in silence is about to be honored in the open. The rewards that were held up are being released, not because of applause, not because of connections, but because of your consistency, your integrity, your quiet faithfulness. Heaven took note, and now it's heaven that's responding. Your story is proof that God doesn't forget what's done in the dark. You stayed real, you stayed obedient, you stayed chosen. And now, everything you did when no one was looking is about to speak for you. This is the beginning of the harvest. Get ready, it's your time. Chapter 2. Character over clout. Chosen one, in a time when the world is obsessed with visibility, you chose to be invisible before man and fully seen by God. While others chased likes, applause, and validation, you chose alignment, truth, and integrity. You weren't moved by trends. You were rooted in purpose. You didn't need to be seen to feel significant. You were building something real, something eternal. You gave when you were empty. You loved when it wasn't returned. You stayed kind when bitterness would have been easier. That's the kind of character that can't be faked. You weren't posting your prayers. You were living them. You weren't showcasing your goodness. You were embodying it. Even in private, you could have compromised for attention, played the part for praise, or presented a version of yourself just to gain influence. But you didn't. You chose the narrow path. You chose to remain faithful when no one was clapping. That quiet strength, that hidden obedience, it mattered. Heaven noticed. Now, the blessings coming to you won't be based on hype, they'll be built on holiness. What's coming will last because it's rooted in character, not clout. The world may have overlooked you, but God was preserving you. And now, When He lifts you, it'll be clear. It wasn't connections, popularity, or performance. It was your heart, your integrity, your faith. So get ready. The season of being unseen is over. The reward will be undeniable, not to boast, but to glorify the one who saw it all. God is about to make your private faithfulness public proof that real always rises. Chapter 3. Heaven watched you in the wilderness. Chosen one, the wilderness was never a punishment. It was God's classroom, a sacred place of stripping and shaping, where everything superficial fell away and only your true self remained. It was quiet, dry, and lonely. Prayers felt unanswered. Support faded. Opportunities disappeared. But through it all, one thing never left: God's presence. You weren't forgotten. You were being formed. In the silence, you chose to still believe. When no one noticed, you still gave your best. When your heart was heavy, you still chose kindness. You worshipped without the music, prayed without the crowd, and stood firm when it would have been easier to fall apart. That is what made your wilderness holy. And while no one else saw the depth of your struggle, heaven did. God watched how you handled lack. He saw your humility, your quiet obedience, your loyalty when no one was applauding. Every tear you cried, every time you whispered, "God, I trust you," through pain. It was all recorded. You weren't being buried, you were being planted. Now, that season of hiddenness is coming to an end. God is about to reveal what He was cultivating in the dark. Doors will open that don't make sense. Favor will find you without explanation. And people will wonder how it all happened. But you'll know, because this isn't random, it's reward. This isn't luck, it's legacy. This is the fruit of faith sown in famine, of trust built in trial. The wilderness was never the end, it was the beginning. And now, the promise is arriving, with your name written on it. Chapter 4. What you planted in the dark is sprouting in the light. Chosen one, hear this truth. Every seed you sowed in silence, every unseen sacrifice, every quiet act of obedience was never wasted. Though it felt like no one saw, heaven did. And now, what was growing in the hidden places is breaking through into the light. Seeds don't grow in the spotlight. They grow in the soil, under pressure, in darkness and stillness. You were in that place, buried by circumstances, surrounded by silence, covered in weight. But you weren't buried to be forgotten. You were planted to rise. In the unseen, your roots went deep. Your spirit grew stronger. Your faith held firm. You planted peace by forgiving when it hurt. You planted grace by loving through pain. You planted faithfulness by showing up even when you felt empty. And you planted surrender by trusting God when you didn't have answers. Each of those seeds has taken root, and now the season of sprouting is here. While others chased attention, you built in silence. While they ran for quick success, you stood firm and let God do the deep work. That's why your breakthrough won't be fleeting. It will be foundational. What's coming isn't just a blessing. It's a legacy. Yes, people will be surprised. They'll think your harvest came out of nowhere. But you'll know the truth. You'll remember the tears, the prayers, the discipline, the nights you almost gave up. You'll remember encouraging yourself when no one else did. And now, God is honoring that private faithfulness with public favor. Let them wonder. Let the blessings speak. Your harvest will humble many, not for pride, but as proof that integrity, consistency, and trust in God still bring reward. What you planted in the dark is now flourishing in the light, not just for your benefit, but for God's glory. This is your time to reap. Heaven is saying, "Well done." I saw every step. Now receive what's been prepared. The wait wasn't in vain. The soil wasn't wasted. The roots are ready. And now, so are you. Chapter 5. You passed the tests. Most people fail. Chosen one, what you endured wasn't ordinary. It was divine training. Life didn't hand you simple challenges. You faced spiritual exams that couldn't be studied for, and tests that revealed your true character in silence, not in spotlight. These weren't moments designed to break you. They were designed to build you. When no one was watching, you were being evaluated by heaven. Not with written questions, but with real situations. You were tested in your integrity when compromise would have been easier. You were tested in your patience when everything felt stuck. You were tested in your humility when pride knocked loudly. You were tested in your faith when nothing around you made sense, and you passed. While others panicked, you prayed. While many chose convenience, you chose conviction. You held your tongue when it burned to speak. You gave grace when it hurt. You loved without return. You trusted God, not because it was easy, but because your soul knew He was still working even in the silence. And those moments, those private victories, heaven saw them all. You didn't beg for a position. You didn't manipulate your way forward. You let your spirit lead, even when your emotions tried to take over. And now the season is shifting. God is about to honor every decision you made when no one clapped, every act of obedience that had no witness but Him. What's coming to you now isn't a coincidence. It's a divine consequence, a reward not of man's making, but of heaven's design. You're stepping into protection, provision, and promotion, not because of what the world gave you, but because of what you gave in secret. Faithfulness, consistency, and truth. People will look and wonder how things turned in your favor. They'll try to explain the doors opening, the peace you carry, the favor that follows you. But they weren't there in the dark. They didn't see the tears, the self-discipline, the quiet resilience. They don't know the price you paid in private for the purpose you're now walking into publicly. But you'll know, and more importantly, God knows. This is your reward season, not driven by fame or followers, but by faith. Your elevation will be different, solid, sacred, and sustained, because you passed the tests most people avoid. And now, heaven is delivering blessings most will never receive, not because you were perfect, but because you were faithful. And faithfulness is always rewarded. Chapter 6. Your reputation in heaven is powerful. Chosen one, you may not be trending, celebrated, or recognized by the world, but in heaven, your name is known. And not just known, honored, revered, respected. Your life may have unfolded in quiet obedience, away from applause and attention, but every sacrifice, every prayer, every decision to stay true to your values has echoed through eternity. Heaven watched when you gave in secret, when you loved without return, when you stood in integrity while others took shortcuts, when you forgave what nearly broke you, when you chose healing over revenge, surrender over control, and truth over popularity. Those moments didn't go unnoticed. They built your spiritual reputation. While others were chasing platforms, you were building purpose. While many performed for clout, you stood firm in your calling. And because of that, your name holds weight where it matters most, in the spirit. Angels know you by the battles you've overcome. Demons recognize the authority you carry, and the Most High has written your name in a place no one can erase. You may have walked into rooms on earth feeling unseen, but in heaven, you are known deeply. Because your influence wasn't built on noise, it was built on faith. Your spiritual resume is not filled with titles, but with trust. Trust that God placed in you because you proved you could be faithful in private. And now, the return is coming. Heaven is releasing what your heart has long prepared for. Favor, promotion, protection, and peace are arriving, not as random blessings, but as a divine response. You didn't live for man's praise, you lived for God's purpose. And that kind of life cannot be ignored. So walk boldly. Your obedience built a legacy. Your surrender built a name. And your name in heaven is powerful. Not because of what you've done publicly, but because of who you've been privately. You are not overlooked. You are ordained. You are not forgotten. You are favored. And now, it's time for the world to see what heaven has always known. Chapter 7. You're about to walk into what you once prayed for. Chosen one, take a deep breath, because you're standing at the edge of something holy. This isn't just a breakthrough, it's the unfolding of what your spirit has known was coming. You've carried dreams, promises, and whispered prayers through seasons of silence, obscurity, and testing. And now, the shift has begun. The wind is turning in your favor, and heaven is ushering you into rooms you once could only envision in faith. You're about to walk through doors that were once shut tight. Doors you knocked on with tears in your eyes and faith in your heart. You're about to sit at tables you once felt unqualified for, have divine appointments with people you once only mentioned in prayer. But hear this clearly. This isn't happening because you forced it. It's happening because you were faithful. You didn't chase platforms. You cultivated purpose. You didn't manipulate moments. You matured in hidden seasons. While others ran ahead, you stayed in alignment. You stayed low, stayed surrendered, stayed obedient, even when it hurt, even when no one clapped, even when the answer was, not yet. And God saw it all. This next level isn't a result of chance. It's the result of consistency. It's not about fame. It's about favor. It's not a reward for striving. It's a release from heaven because you trusted God's process. While others built visibility, you built virtue. While they sought spotlight, you sought His face. And that's why your elevation will be sustained. It's not coming from man, it's coming from the Most High. The doors opening for you now are not about ego. They're about assignment. You've been refined, not just promoted. You've been transformed, not just positioned. And now, the evolved you is walking into places the old you wouldn't have been ready to handle. That's why the delay was mercy. The waiting was preparation. And the wait is over. So don't downplay what's happening. Don't shrink to make others comfortable. Don't question whether you belong. You were born for this. You were called for this. Heaven has cleared the way, and all you have to do is walk boldly. This is the season where your private obedience meets public overflow, where your hidden labor becomes holy legacy, where you stop knocking and start walking in. The rooms you're entering are not just for your blessing, they are for God's glory. Let the favor speak. Let the fruit speak. Let your presence in those places remind the world that obedience, character, and trust in God still unlock doors no man can close. You're not just stepping into answered prayer. You're stepping into divine fulfillment. Welcome to your next chapter. You're ready.